Very pleased now to be joined here at Blogging the Boys by the one and only, the internationally famous. I'm very excited to ask about apparently her supreme baking skills and her supreme oven, double oven, it looked like,
Yes.
from the Houston Chronicle and really from the whole earth, honestly. It is Stephanie Stradley. Stephanie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Nice to be here. I just I'm glad to see an actual regular season Texans Cowboys game, even though it it isn't as relevant as Texas football should be. Texas football just generally should be the center of the universe. And as a Longhorn fan with an Aggie daughter, that kind of stuff is working out nice. The pro teams, being the highest level, need to step the bleep up, is what I'm going to say.
It's certainly, I think if you had rewound the clock
Yeah.
a year, I think we would have assumed that this matchup would have been amazing, and that the Texas A&M matchup would have been pretty boring. You know what I mean? And those scripts have both kind of flipped, obviously, relative to this time last year. It is. As I've done these conversations over the last month now with different people
Yeah.
who cover different teams, there have been people who have been down on their team, and it turns into this like competition of sorts. Now you are super Texans through and through, so I don't
Yeah.
anticipate this being the case for you. But
Well,
it
I
turns
don't know. I don't know about that. My belief on this topic is the rings of bad football Hades are infinite. There is an infinite number of ways that you can be concerned about your team.
right.
And the Cowboys' ways of you guys being concerned are very specific to you guys. Our ways of being concerned are kind of like high cotton for us. Like, it's not like, oh, this is the fifth year of paying for to watch a quarterback that I just don't want to watch anymore. Like, so that's a different, like, there's different levels. There's levels, but like suffering is suffering, and we don't have to suffer. Actually, during bad times, let me tell you, that's when you're supposed to have the most fun. You're supposed to be stupid a little bit. And and so what I'm telling you is you need to be slightly stupid when you're suffering from bad football, and that hopefully the powers that be respect the reasons why people are suffering and alleviate their suffering, not in stupid ways, but in cool ways. And really, football, just generally speaking, is a battle between urgency and patience and being smart about it. And you can be that in a particular window, but maybe at some point you don't see things right, or you have setbacks and you're on plan Z. So really, all that teams are doing right now is landing the plane. Now, your plane is a bad plane to land right now. The Texans plane is kind of an uplifting plane. You got all these inexperienced players trying to learn how to win consistently, learning how to finish games, and that is a skill, and that's not an easy skill, especially when you don't trust parts of your team. But everybody's trying to land the plane. Your plane right now has some good parts, but it's a hard plane to land.
There was so much therapy in what you just said. And it was
Well,
really.
no, I try. I've said this before. I don't want to be a bad football expert. I'm an expert on bad football.
That's a really introspective way to look at this, certainly. And I think we all have a certain point in our lives where we evaluate sports and we say, like, relative to the NFL, like, oh, well, the Cowboys had the same result last year as the 49ers, so their seasons were identical. And it's like, well, it's not exactly true. You know what I mean? Like, we all kind of grow past that. So to your point, I think there's measured levels of depression or anxiety or terror or rage or outrage, whatever you want to call it.
And my point on all of this is sports attracts amazing people, and it's really hard to get the right people together at the right time. And when you have that, it's a precious jewel. Or you run that guy off because you didn't get enough credit, and then you win another Super Bowl, and then you like make money off of that for decades. I'm just talking hypothetically. But like, it is a precious jewel to have relevant football. And it's the friends we make along the way. I know that's kind of cliche, but it really is because, it's their teams. They have to, it's not between hate and love. It's about caring and indifference. And in the modern world, we have so many choices to be entertained with. Like we can wear stupid hats, we can put on glasses, we can drink our Topo Chicos, we can wear stupid rings, like we can do whatever we want. And so it's a question of like, why should we care? And part of that is trust, part of that is respect, and part of it is being honest. Like, hey, when people are telling you it's a problem to play football when you are staring into the sun, and you might have like this idea that maybe because you're the smartest and you don't have to listen to people, maybe it's actually good that people can't see the ball coming or know what they're throwing into. Maybe that's actually good. Maybe he's right, but like you have to convince people, because at some point I'm gonna talk to some of y'all out there. Some Texan fans used to be Cowboy fans, or they're both, AFC, NFC, and I don't truck that way, but I respect people that do because of just accidents of their upbringing or whatever. That's hard. It's hard.
It's so there's a weird juxtaposition here, and you're right. So I'm born and raised Texan, and there's something to that and I don't mean like in the Republic way, like everybody relax. I just mean it's a very big state. I remember the very first time I went on like a road trip with my friends. It was like, we're already through Mississippi, and they were like, dude, we're in a very different kind of part of the country here. So as an example, one of our common threads is I'm a Houston Astros fan, and I'm also a San Antonio Spurs fan. I get that all the time. Like, what do you mean? Like, why don't you root for, it's like, I'm from the Rio Grande Valley,
Look where you live.
Yeah. Like I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. I was raised in the 90s. Like this was just kind of like the way my life went, and people don't understand that. And
and Texans didn't exist.
Right. Like, so there's a lot of weird stuff here.
We didn't create our own histories. Like we're a part of it. But like, certainly I didn't think that I would be sitting here, at this moment in the 90s because the Texans didn't exist. I was an Oilers fan, and then that wasn't a history future that I chose.
Right.
But then you make the best of whatever the deal is. And really, I've seen the Astros win championships. I've seen the Rockets win championships. I've seen the Spurs win championships. I would like to experience that with my professional football. I've seen UT win championships. I saw Ricky Williams get records. I saw Earl Campbell do stuff. I want to see this in Houston. I want to see this in Houston. Houston, I want to see professional. I want to see the Super Bowl in New Orleans. I would like to drive down I-10, bring all my friends with me, and see the Super Bowl in New Orleans. But also I'd like a pony. So like this stuff is hard. This stuff is hard. Land the plane. It's hard.
And that's my conversation to a lot of Cowboys fans is, so I understand the plight of Texans fans in never been to a title game, whatever. The age of the franchise is obviously an understandable variable and all that. But if you're a Cowboys fan, let's call it age 40-ish or under,
yeah,
you only have the bad. You only get the bad rap of being a Cowboys, Lakers, Yankees fan, and none of the good. Because even if you're a Yankees fan or a Lakers fan, like I understand their titles now feel, and as an Astros fan, I take great joy in this, but their titles are they feel ancient at this point in time. Yeah. The Yankees' last title was 14 years after the most recent Cowboys title. I mean, and we can say what we want about the Lakers title in 2020 and the COVID bubbles and all these things like that. But at the very least, it's a title. And at the very least, they obviously had all the Kobe titles. So like if you're I would offer it, and this kind of goes back to where we started here, that the level of misery here is a little bit different, not in a competitive way, but because everyone piles onto it. Everyone has a take. Everyone has a thought. And that kind of.
Well, and actually, that's the same issue that the Yankees have, which is if you are a player, the good part of, let me tell you what the good parts of the Cowboys are. The good parts of the Cowboys, and the reason why Jerry got in the Hall of Fame before other people is A, he's really good at making money, and B, he throws a fabulous party in fabulous places. Nobody denies that. But it's also the same things that are his weaknesses, which is he likes a show, and some people like to watch football. That's good. And like football people running football and like true honesty. And frankly, the hardest thing for most owners, and just generally speaking, but Jerry too, is it's hard to get the right people in place and be honest and not kind of go, yeah, you do your football stuff, but I'm not gonna like put my thumb on the scale. Like it's really, hey, do your football stuff, but I really like my quarterbacks looking into the sun,
Yeah.
or distractions. Like if you're a Cowboy, you just have to be okay with distractions. Well, some football people don't like that. Some football people want the head coach to be the head coach and not the owner, the Jerry show.
It
Like,
sort of to me feels like you are one of, and I mean this in the most respectable way possible, one of the most eclectic people that I know on the internet. So I don't know what your familiarity level is with the Marvel Cinematic Universe these
yes,
days.
I'm very, very familiar.
Okay, so the Cowboys, and I'm so thrilled, by the way, that this conversation went this direction, because the reality is,
Like,
it was
time out for 1 second. To analyze these two teams playing this weekend with who's playing is kind of dumb.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, I don't think anyone's here to understand, like, well, what are Stephanie's thoughts on Cooper Rush and his ability to kind of,
Yes.
kind of handle the blitz and things like that. So to get back
Not
to
good.
right, to get back to the more philosophical discussion. So I recently watched Deadpool versus Wolverine. I hadn't seen it yet.
Great movie.
It was awesome. And so obviously the kind of meta-ness of it all is great, whatever. But I was surprised that, and I don't mean to spoil anything for anybody, but that they took some shots at the MCU and the multiverse and things like that. And it just kind of feels like that has been Marvel for like 5 years at this point. It's been like, let's just throw another universe. Let's just bring whoever back to life. Let's have Robert Downey Jr. play Doctor Doom. It's like, dude, I mean, it is a full-time job now to understand the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You have overcomplicated it. And that's what the Dallas Cowboys are. The Dallas Cowboys are like, dude, just let it be a movie. Let there be a good guy and a bad guy. Let them fight, have some explosions, whatever you want. Have a Michael Bay style ending.
Main thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels like to me, and again, I mean this in the most respectable way possible, the Texans are sort of the DC universe, but like the revitalized DC universe. Like, we're starting to get our ducks in a row. We've had a couple of good movies. You know what I mean? We're still young. We're early in this process, but we're no longer just this tire fire of an operation that we were.
I like the way that you're thinking, because sometimes when you are dealing with a world that's dark or heavy, it's kind of fun to make your own world or to make the best out of something bad. So like, the Oilers went away. That was really sad. And, a bunch of dumbasses I'm sorry, I don't like to cuss online.
You're on the internet. There's no rules here.
I know, but people think it's more angry than I actually mean it. Like, people didn't get along in the 90s, and now stupid things happen. And then Tennessee has some irrelevant team that puts all of the history really in the warehouse and is very awkward for all of us to talk about, because people have different feelings about it. So whatever. So that bad thing happened. Bob McNair tried to create something good. And part of that in this world is, if you were creating a football team from scratch, how would you do it? In Texas, and you're naming it Texans, you are naming the highest level of football, Texans, in Houston. Okay. So we, though we have mascots, really, the team is named after us. So what is the obligations, responsibilities for that? Well, we were put together in an era where the fan base discovered each other online and assembled each other online and got to see each other in person, because back in Oilers days, we didn't have tailgating and everybody showed up all at once. The traffic to go to a game was miserable. They often didn't sell out games because of various miseries of football we don't need to get into. But having tailgate means that you have 70,000 people showing up at all different hours, and you get to meet people in real life and work together and dream what your future would be. So some of you out there, and I still respond to it for people who are cool about it, know me as the Texans chick. I am that chick that knows about the Texans. I know way too much, okay? One way that you can assemble that world is to say, there is an extended Texans universe, and you are a part of it because you're not a villain, you're a commentator on it. You kind of want it to be good, but you kind of don't want it to be good, but you are part of the universe somehow, like if you were writing this as a story. I sometimes picture Texan fans and Texans players and Texans coaches and Texans executives as people coming into the universe. And while they're in that universe, me as the Texans chick that looks all different ways wants to support it. Like
Sure.
From my perspective in the Texans extended universe, I want to go, okay, how do I as an individual living in the H,
Shout out Lance McCullers.
how do I see a Super Bowl before I die? Because like if you look at like the Steelers, like they suck for years. Like if it takes Steelers amount of time, I will be dead. And that's just and that's actually Jerry's worst issue, because he's been staring mortality in the face, and frankly that's not an easy thing to do. So he is desperate to go back and be a part of it, and sometimes when you're trying to help, you actually hurt. So like that is my understanding as Texans chick. There have been times over the years where I have been actually helpful to do things that are good for players and good for fans and good for people generally. But then sometimes I try to help. It's like, that wasn't helpful at all.
I mean, it's my biggest complaint, and our audience has heard me say it in these exact words already, and so I apologize to them. But
no, we're doing a therapy session.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys say the worst things about your team than I could ever do, and
exactly.
it's not healthy for your players.
So the idea of being all in, the verbiage of it, I will forever be annoyed by now. But what bothered me and continues to bother me is that there's no North Star, and that's the verbiage that everyone's heard from me. It's one thing to be bad, right? It's one thing to try and fail, right? You're a parent. Sometimes that happens, right? It's like, hey, you know what? I'm proud of you. You tried. Things like that. There has not been a North Star for the Cowboys. They have not operated towards one singular thing, whether that is tanking or rebuilding or soft rebuilding or going all in, whatever. They have their hands in all these different cookie jars, and because they're involving themselves over the lines, over the boundaries, whatever, over these football people, whatever, to the point that they're doing things, it is, I say this a lot as well, it is impossible, and I know that you know this, to get the internet to agree on anything, right? Like or not even the internet. You walk into a room of people, I think strawberry is the best ice cream flavor. You're stupid. Chocolate's better, whatever.
Wait, can I have a brief timeout?
If it's the disagree on strawberry, no, because it is the best. But
this is going to be my point of view. Last night, along with a lot of really cool fans, I attended something called Fan Council, where they just kind of take our temperature on stuff. And what I found is, and this is a modern thing, people want to debate you on your feelings.
Of course, yeah.
Feelings aren't a debate. Taste is not a debate. Your lived experience is not a debate. Now, I was a high school debater and a college debater, and I'm a lawyer. Like, who cares? Like, I do this stuff professionally. Most of the things that people talk about as debate online is not debate. It is like, I don't know, just being a bunch of junior high babies about stuff. Real debate. And even if you were doing a real debate, most real debates are dumb because they don't get you anywhere. So for me, I like conversations.
I agree with you entirely, and in the spirit of what you're saying and the actuality of what you're saying. To that end, while it is while debates are foolish for the most part,
No,
still,
always.
okay. Well, while they are always foolish, the ultimate reality of my point is that you can never get people to agree on anything because people will debate anything out of their own foolish endeavors, as you just outlined.
Well,
That
but then the flip side is you will not get everybody to agree with you, but you can get agreement on things that you value. Like, so you find those things that you value. So like for me, I value the main thing being the main thing.
right.
And everything that you do as an organization serves that. Now, sometimes that means making a lot of money or making a situation attractive. Like, I can see why people would want to be a Cowboys player because it's high profile. If you do well there, you're gonna, you have opportunities in your post-playing career. There's a lot of reasons why it could be cool to be a Cowboy.
Totally. And I agree with that completely. And
But then the thing is sometimes the main things are not the main things, or the way that you're trying to tackle those things is not respected by football people.
I think the like true crux of it all is it's no longer believable for the Cowboys.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
have you seen the Mighty Ducks movies? If not,
No.
then I'm here to help you. Don't worry.
No, I don't know if I want to get into the Mighty Ducks.
I think you probably understand the general premise. It's a young
hockey team. I'm familiar with it. It's just
there's a part in the third movie because it's a trilogy. You have to understand this. And in the third movie, the Ducks have I think they're in high school and they're going to some like very prestigious prep school to play hockey. It's a big deal. They're all on scholarships, whatever. And they think they're it, because they're the Ducks, right? Like they've done all this stuff to this point in their lives. And they schedule a game against the varsity because they're the Ducks and they hate each other and all this stuff. And you're familiar with the flying V. You've seen that, I'm sure, that's like one of their formations they use. They line up in a V and they move and they score goals and all this sorts of stuff.
I'll take your word.
And, okay, so they try to do that. They try to do their signature move against the varsity, and they just get clobbered. Like the varsity just like destroys them in this moment. And their coach, they have a new coach. It's no longer the one they've had as they've been youth. And he comes in and he's just cussing them out. And he tells them something that I think about a lot with the Cowboys. He says, your little duck tricks won't work here anymore because you're at a new level, right? Like the competition's different, things like that. And what I think about the Cowboys is these, the rabbit out of your hat, the like making your thumb, disconnect from your finger. Like people bought that 20 years ago. People bought that 15 years ago, but you can't sign Zeke and think that anybody is going to believe that that's, conducive to winning. You can't deny the sun. And like the fact that we've had this sun conversation is so dumb and so stupid. I feel.
No, it's not dumb and stupid because of this. In the modern world, particularly the internet world, if you're the executive, you're like, even us, people complain to us all the time, like we can do something, right? And at some point, some of the complaints, like if somebody complains to something about me, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. But like if you get a whole bunch of complaints and some of them are true, some of them are partially true, and then some of them are just dumb or false, or some of them are just mean, at some point you just get in such a bubble, and the people around you can kind of reinforce that bubble, that you're like, I'm not listening to any of this stuff. But at the same time, what you were going towards, that aside, because I don't like to be an apologist for that point of view. People looking for edges is a continuous thing throughout the league. Like, there was a time where people didn't lift weights, and then there was a time where people did static stretches, and then there's time where people did more dynamic stretches. Then there was time where, people were doing much more football specific kinds of workouts.
So you buy that Jerry at least legitimately believes it's an advantage? I don't buy that person. I think that's just an excuse at this point.
I think that he clearly is a very accomplished person, and he has taken big swings, and I appreciate people who take big swings. Like, he's put together something in Dallas, which I have not seen yet, which is gigantic and can host lots of events and prints money and pushes other teams to have to try to compete with
Right.
that. Now, I personally don't like that because I prefer for a wide variety of people to be able to afford to watch good
Sure.
football. So that's not really part of my football value system, is to price people out of being able to see things, although they do have the standing room only. So if you're willing to humiliate yourself and run through crowds, then you can maybe get a chance to see this beautiful
It's a
event.
meritocracy, exactly.
So, but like if you his whole ego is into making the decisions with that stadium, making the decisions on how it's oriented, making the decisions where he wants it to feel like it's an outdoor stadium. And who who are we to question his choices?
It's
Who
infinite
are the
wisdom.
who are the people who are getting paid, like, oh, well, like the players are complaining, well, you're getting paid and he's your boss. So at some point, his argument, like if we're putting in debate terms, is like, this is my money, these are my choices, if you don't like it, too bad. Or too bad, or you're the wrong person, which it's not a wrong person thing, it's preferences. Some prefer to not have their retinas blown out.
So I compare the Cowboys to the Astros a lot, just because
Mhm.
those are the worlds I live in orbit myself. And as an example, I lamented about I was very happy. I know we weren't as Astros fans a little bit, but I was very impressed by the Josh Hader signing. I was very impressed by Jim Crane saying we've got Ryan Presley, but I want more. Like
Yeah,
there is never enough
no.
for me, and I really admire that level of gumption. With regard to winning, because you're right, that gumption can exist with regards to printing money or being a business or whatever you want. But with regards to winning, I think we park our cars in the same garage.
Well,
That
and
being said,
also that you could have $1 billion, and that doesn't mean that you can buy anything.
right. But so back to the Jim Crane, the way I can kind of liken, because the Sun it has reached this Sun thing has reached an annoyance for me, that it's now such a national talking point that
Yeah,
it gets annoying when it's a matter
yeah,
of, we've been talking about this for 15 years, and I know y'all think you're cool because you're having the conversation for the
yeah.
first time, but welcome to our anyway. But if I had to compare it to anything in sports, and again, the Astros come to mind. Do you remember last year, the end of the 23 season, when the Astros were complaining about the batter's eye and
Yeah,
the wall, and Jim Crane was kind of standoffish for a little while, like, hey, shut up. You know what I mean? I like it. I like the shade of green that it is.
yeah.
And then before the playoffs, and granted it didn't work, so it sounds stupid to like cite as an amazing example, but still, he said, okay, guys, you want it different. You're the players. You think it'll help? Done. How
Well, and
cool? How cool is
yeah,
that?
is that amazing? I mean, I think part of that is, sports is a people business, and getting the right people at the right time is a gift. It's also a feelings business. Like um, we can talk all we want about the win probabilities and blah blah blah, and that definitely, like, I'm all about searching every winning edge that can possibly be found. And for the Texans, for example, it's not a legacy team. So for a lot of years, the Texans didn't have a home field, really.
Right.
Because like if you're watching bad football, then eventually people stop showing up. And then you get other fans to come in. And now with digital tickets, you get more fans. So my goal from the very beginning is like, how do we get the feelings right so that, like, the Texans advantage is not that we have the biggest stadium in the world, it's because we care. We care. Like, Bob McNair put it out there, and LA was supposed to get our team, and he worked with other people, he got buy-in and worked with the rodeo and wasn't a jackhole like the person who doesn't exist anymore. He got it done. And that, that's hard to do. And then over time, showing the different ways that they care about the fans. Now, do they always get it right? No, because like fans care about all sorts of different things. But you have to find all those edges. And the thing that some people obviously believe, this is not news flash to you, people don't believe in the Jerry GM model and the strong Jerry presence that Bigfoot's everything. And it's really hard to it's its own model because usually, when people talk about strong GM versus strong head coach models and things like that, one of those people is like leading the bus, and usually you need just the head coach that people want to play for.
Right. I mean, I've tried to contextualize this drought in consider that the last time the Cowboys, pick what you want, won the Super Bowl, appeared in the Super Bowl, appeared in the NFC Championship game, John Elway did not have a Super Bowl of any kind.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
got two as a player. He literally built his own team as a GM, including with DeMarcus Ware. Like, I mean, we could embarrass the Cowboys forever here with this.
Yeah.
But I think the reality of it is beyond the fact that the model doesn't work. We just live in a day and age where people are way smarter and have way more access to information. So even if the model did work, which we obviously agree it doesn't, again, I go back to things like not doing anything in free agency. Again, pick what you want. There's an enormous amount to work with here.
Let's go back to the Astros or even the Texans right now. The Astros got a GM that won it all for them. Now, I don't think that you can have a full tank mode in the NFL in a good way.
Right.
Because I see the NFL more like F1 because it's an injury sport with very short careers. So you could try to build things up, but if you ruin a guy while you don't have respectable pieces and parts around them, that's not cool. So I see I've talked to basketball GMs about this, where it's NFL is way harder because there's just so many more parts. Any one thing that you get wrong in putting together your team makes it that much harder to get your ultimate goal. So when the Texans were in the wilderness, they kind of worked through some things. Nick Caserio has become a much better GM.
Sure.
He is a singular person that definitely thinks in terms of edges. He has connections all throughout the league. He's leveraging weaknesses in the market. He ended up getting, offensive and defensive rookie of the year. And he used the ammo, you can stockpile ammo forever and then you're sitting on a pile of ammo with a bunch of L's. Or you can choose the ammo at the most efficient time.
Right.
It wasn't a choice without risk, but if you say there's 6 guys in this draft who are projected elite players and you get 2 of them at premium positions to match with your new head coach, that shows that you're even trying to be legitimate, even if it doesn't work out, because especially with quarterback, that's extraordinarily hard to develop, even if you have the right guy. And so Nick Caserio got better when he got matched with a legitimate head coach that was attractive to bringing people in, where people want to play there. And it's really clear that the guy who's in charge is the head coach. There's no is this happening? No, this guy's the head coach. He collaborates with other people, but he's the head coach. People know he's the head coach. He's really good at articulating things in a way where people can understand it. And of course, anytime that things go south, whether it's your record or things, then people bring up dumb stuff to go, well, the reason for that is blah, blah, blah. Well, it's a lot of reasons, friend. And the biggest reason is there's all sorts of remarkable coaches that don't thrive in one place and thrive in another place. And to get that special, precious thing together is so hard. And when you feel that, when you feel it with the Astros, where they had some people together, we won't talk about some aspects of that, but when you have a collection of people together, it's fragile. And when the number one thing that coaches will say is people are you did this last year and you're going to do this year. It's no. Every team is a new team with different challenges, and they just are another way to look at this, creating a world. In Houston, we're going to the moon. going to the moon is hard. Now, Houston did that before getting a Super Bowl, but going to the moon is hard. Now, if you're not going to the moon, let's say the Cowboys, you just need to get the people back to Earth.
You
And
just
so
need to land the plane. That's all you got to do. Just land the
yeah, or land the ship, because like right now, you guys are not going to the moon in 2024.
We're just trying to get on a flight. I mean, we're not even, they haven't called us to board yet. It's
You're
tough.
just trying to make it not worse for next year.
Right.
And the hard part about that is, guys play with pride. They're making tape. There's some very good players on your team, so you can't take any team lightly. As we know from the Texans' first game in 1910, you can't take any opponent lightly in the NFL because there's plenty of professionals. They can see tape. They can see weaknesses. And frankly, the Texans haven't shown that they can consistently play well on the road. And so until they do it, you shouldn't assume it.
So I guess that, a good way to begin to close here is a prediction for the game. I told you I'm going to this game, which kind of is going back to what we talked about. Like, there's a little bit of stupid that you kind of have to reach and enjoy. And I'm very excited to stupidly enjoy myself. I haven't been to a Cowboys game in the stands in a long time. Yeah,
I mean, with your dad, like in the early years with the Texans, I have a ticket that like 2 tickets, one I share with my friend. And a lot of times she just had no interest because there's a lot of things you'd rather do than watch some really bad football.
Sure.
But I like seeing this is really cool to see something grow from scratch to whatever it ends up being before like our demise. And so
or we go to the moon.
Or going to the moon. So, but like that was a time that you could like take kids. Like if people are giving me a bunch of free tickets, and I got to try different parts of the stadium. There was less people at events, so I got to know people a little bit better because nobody was there, or the people that were there were the people that cared in a particular way. So my view on this is just enjoy the time. I will say with this particular game, the Texans defense looks legitimate. They're getting parts and pieces back that they didn't have earlier in the year, and they're playing together more with some chemistry. The offensive line has obviously been the biggest, or it's not just the offensive line, it's the entire group together. Well, because they're trying something pretty ambitious. Like most people, like if you're trying to develop a quarterback, the view is, okay, you need an experienced center. You need to have a fully developed line. You need to have like the best running back ever. And they didn't quite have all those things last year, but they could still succeed some. This year, the line was a little different. They had some injuries in spots that they didn't anticipate that make it very difficult to do what they want to do consistently. And they're still learning. They're still learning, and they're learning in front of people, because I got to tell you, in my early 20s, I would have really hated to have millions of people watch me try to do stuff for the first time at a high level and consistently. But you got to start somewhere. And the hardest part is offensive line is a grown man position. And they have a lot of, the way that their line kind of got put together has some legacy decisions that maybe aren't fully their own, but maybe they are their own. Maybe they can develop rookie center, a rookie guard at the same time that they're developing a rookie quarterback. But those positions, D'Amico Ryans himself was defensive rookie of the year, but linebacker is a position that if you are a very good linebacker, you can see that pretty early on. Sure. Running back is one of those positions. Quarterback, we have definitely seen enough from CJ Stroud to know what he can do. Then the question is, okay, can we get the play calling working with what you have for your roster, with people coming in and out, and then just learning to win, because experience is the harshest teacher. And the last game has to kind of stick with them, and the Green Bay game kind of has to stick with them, but they can't stick with them. Like every game is its new thing. Every game has its own matchups. your team has plenty of good players as individuals, but not any given Sunday, they're professionals. They're going to try the best that they can with, the resources that they have. Like,
quit riding the fence, Stephanie. I need a pick, and then I have 3 non-football fun questions that I have to get your answers on. They're things we've covered, but I have to get the answer. So, who wins?
Well, I don't like giving picks because I think that if you played 10,000 times, there'd be 10,000 different results. So
I'm not going to 10,000 games. I can promise you that. I don't have that time.
I would say Cowboy fans, other than you, do not show up to this game because the Texans are going to want to put a whoop ass on you real bad. Like, Texans are very prideful and very extra. And obviously the Cowboys are not going to want to have yet another whoop ass from that other team in Texas to happen in their stadium. But sometimes you can't stop that. Like, you didn't want the Eagles to whoop your ass. I mean, and the Texans want to whoop a team's ass real hard. I know that there's a lot of Texans that are traveling to that game that are wanting to support that team. So I would say infinity to -7.
That's kind of on par with where the Cowboys have been. The only thing I would push back on is that I would say that there weren't a lot of people who didn't not want the Eagles to whoop ass. People have kind of waved the white flag. Like that's honestly been part of this week's discussion.
But you can do that from your house.
I know, but at least from a fan perspective, our opinion has kind of been like the Eagles whooped our ass and we didn't even care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to your point, normally
I think the players care, but I know the players care, and it really I mean, I've talked to enough players that have been on struggling teams, and it eats at you, and especially when everybody in your city, like for me, most of the time I'm not walking around Earth, and I can just walk around Earth as a regular person. If you're a player for the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas, it's an absolute misery. I mean, the way that you deal with it is you count your money, but that only goes so far because you can count your money at other places.
Right. No, that's well said.
It sucks to be on a losing team, risking your health, you're making tape, you're hoping, you're having a lot of not great stuff happening. So that sucks. But I will say, sometimes the only way, every team has a different way to get changes done. And Jerry, his strength and his weakness is he's stubborn and he will lie to your face because of reasons. I don't know, in his upbringing. I don't know. Like, the reasons are not relevant that he wants you to believe in dumb things. So different teams deal with it differently. The Texans, when we've had really, really just this is not supportable kind of years, we just didn't show up. Some people did, some people didn't. I'm not going to judge because people in Houston are busy. We have things to do and we like good looking football. But then Jacksonville, they showed up with clown masks on, which is really kind of aggro, but Texans try not to be aggro. Texans are want to be polite, but if it's, and then they don't want to hate, but sometimes they do hate. And then when hate's not enough, then you just kind of have to stay home or bring your toddler, your dad to the game and hope that they get whooped so bad that maybe, just maybe, they'll take the right lessons from that and get more help in their version of a Nick Caserio.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be pining for a version of Nick Caserio, but here we are. I'm going to reserve the right to change my pick because I will be honest, and I think the emotions of going to the game with my dad may sway me come Monday afternoon. Right now, I'm definitely leaning Texans, and I'm at the very least. This has been such a very awesome conversation and a very different approach to a game preview that I'll say this is kickstarting an intense few weeks for me personally. So this game's on Monday night. My son's 3-year-old birthday party is next weekend. I have to smoke a brisket in the middle of next week. And then after that, it's Thanksgiving. And our audience knows my son was born the night before Thanksgiving 3 years ago, which, as someone who covers the Dallas Cowboys, now makes my life incredibly chaotic that week. And then I'll be smoking the turkey. So I got a lot going on these next couple weeks, Cowboys. So how about you? I don't know. Just throw me a bone. You just give me something cool. You know what I mean? To kickstart.
I will tell you this part. When you're talking about teams in Texas, whether we're talking Cowboys, Texans, or Texas A&M, the amount of pride that we have in our football puts some feelings onto it that may make it different than just, okay, who's playing this position, who's playing this position. But I will also say that a lot of people have emotions with it. And I have emotions with that because in the very first game, I was pregnant with my second child and was about 60 pounds bigger than me. Like I barely could find a men's shirt to fit me. And, you have all the hormones involved and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that particular game and that crowd had such great energy because people were so excited that we were starting a new road together. And then we won that game, first expansion team ever to win their opener. So yeah, that's what sports is about. Sports is about the emotion, and you should stay involved with it as long as you keep it fun. And there's different ways of having fun. Now, it's really hard if you don't have a tailgate culture to kind of like the tailgate culture to me was one of those things where like we had hope and then sometimes we didn't have hope, but then we had friends and we, misery loves company. And then the things that we did outside of football, that game that they played 2002, I can't tell you the number of people I know now that I would not have known then.
Sure.
Just because of, choices and intentions and trying to keep it fun. So Texas, we want to elevate our football. I hope it's a good game. And to me, a good game is to beat the Dallas Cowboys by infinity to -7. And in my world, in my head, that is possible.
That's what sports should be about. Kate McAllister said in Home Alone, which we're on the precipice of being on. Maybe you're one of those people who's already all the way in on Christmas stuff. No judgment here. But she says in that movie to John Candy that Christmas is the season of perpetual hope. She's a little bit wrong. Football season, Kate, is the season of perpetual hope. So,
well, we're on the road again with Willie Nelson. Come on, Texans, show up. The prices are about a third of what they were a couple of weeks ago, and I've been rooting for the Cowboys' demise. No offense, but you're with me. So come on, Texans, wear red. Enjoy the tailgate. There's a tailgate going out there that is a Texans tailgate, and you can get more information on the Traveling Texans on their Facebook page these days. So if you're thinking about it, find your people.
My 3 non-football ones to close. You mentioned F1. Who's your Formula One race team? I assume you have one.
I got into that kind of, through the casual Drive to Survive thing.
Well, I mean, we're the same boat. You know what I mean? I'm a fraud.
Part of my thing with that is, I'm just rooting for them because, you look at enough F1 history and just how hard it is to get in those spots and how hard it is to keep a ride and how freaking dangerous it is.
Sure.
So I just root for a really good race. Like there's parts of Alonso, I have to say is he's still kicking ass. And I love when they try to engage with him on social media and go, what's your favorite color? And he's like, I'm Alonso. Why are you asking me these questions? And so to be able to compete at a high level at his age and be somebody that was wanted for a team for both his ability and his ability to help a driver, that's actually kind of cool. I like that. But I can tell you everything I like about all of the drivers.
Right. Now the show, it's the best running sports show of this
Well,
variety.
And the other part of it is it's not them, it's a version of them. And like
Right.
I know for a while Max wasn't very keen on the way that they edited him
Hmm.
to make him look a particular way. And I think they made peace about that. So I try not, like, I don't like a lot of the discourse with F1 because I think it's a little dehumanizing and doesn't treat them as human beings. So for that sport, and even like I have to say, I used to be more of a hater in about teams, and but like once you start working with more people in sports, you become less of a hater and less of looking at other people like cartoons. And our society wants us to look at people like cartoons because frankly, it's really great for page views and stuff like that. But if you care about people and you care about taking your values into sports, I just like rooting. I like rooting for humanity, and in F1 in particular because it's not geographic. I just like the good race. I like teams to put their best product on the race course, and I hope to go back to Austin and see. I've only seen it once there, and it was great.
Okay, that's a really good answer. You landed that plane. Okay, proverbial question number two. This one's kind of just for us, but in your purview, do the Astros re-sign Alex Bregman this winter?
Uh, that's a two-part question. I don't have like the best information on that. I will say, generally speak, like I get the reasons for, like if you were debating it, like I get the reasons for both sides. My view on that is it's hard to have these discussions without being disrespectful, and I will never disrespect Alex Bregman. The dude has to carry a wheelbarrow around with him all the time because of his reasons.
Yeah.
And I would like to watch more Alex Bregman do Bregman things, and I don't take what he offered to this team for granted. If you have somebody named Jose Altuve saying that he should come back, Jose has a very interesting perspective of what Bregman brings to that team. Now, could they succeed without him? Sure. Is he going to get a huge payday? Sure. And those are the complicated things because there's plenty of players that you would like to keep, but you can't handicap the rest of the team. Now, does it mean that, like, do I need to be okay with paying $30 for a beer or whatever they're going to charge next year? I love Alex Bregman. I hope he stays. And frankly, you know, culturally, he's a Houstonian and should be one of those people that we bring into our love vortex where they can't leave.
I think that's well said. I would offer that if you're going to be paying $30 for anything at a game, it's going to be for like a special kind of like nacho with his salsa on it, not a beer.
No, no,
And
no. The beer prices are
right.
no, like playoff beer prices. I'm like, damn, maybe I don't like beer.
This is sort of reflective of our overall conversation. The Astros have been such an analytically driven team and such a emotionless team in that sense, in a good way. There are very certain special circumstances where I will wave my hand on that and say, if you want to make an emotional decision that if you're trying to measure the emotions of things, this is one of those. This is one of those. He's good for the emotion, the vibes, the culture, whatever. Because
Or you can make the analytical viewpoint, which is it's hard to replace Alex Bregman's talents from a defensive standpoint, from an offensive standpoint, from a versatility standpoint. If third base no longer is a thing, his representation knows that. Like, it's not like there's a whole bunch of people in the pipeline to be Bregman because he's a subset of one, but they've got rid of other players who were their own unique, wonderful people that I will never disparage, unless they disparage us first. Don't start none, won't be none kind of situation.
Right.
But I think that the best way to use analytics is not to keep your brain at home. Like the best, like because what you measure matters, and if are you putting those measurements in the context of ball?
Right.
And the best people in any sport are the people that can marry the analytics, confine the analytics, and marry it with the deep sport knowledge and the people knowledge that respects people.
That's very, very well put. As somebody who's a fan of analytics, there is an injection of life and ball to your point that you have to use to compartmentalize everything. My final one, I hinted at this a little while ago. I just need really just kind of a 101 on your baking setup, your baking situation, what you like to bake. If you have a holiday recommendation or recipe for us to try, let us into your world, please.
Okay, so this is a deal. I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and my mom, who just passed away in January, is the most badass person I have ever known. And shout out to my whole family out there who's, gonna probably watch this. And one of the ways that she was a teacher, she was brilliant. Like, she did a lot of things, but she was a teacher. And one of the ways that she would teach us as kids was, your entry into cooking, or to be a good roommate, or just a good human, was to get you to bake. It's like, I'm not going to buy you desserts, but if you bake it. And so we were incentivized that if you wanted to have treats, you needed to make them yourself. And knowing how to bake is just a good skill.
Sure.
And she teach you how to ground beef, or brown meat and all that kind of stuff, like basic stuff. And I like to eat. I don't really love to cook, so especially in a good part of my life, I'm busy doing all the things I enjoy doing, and like I enjoy cooking for a lot of people because I was used to cooking for a lot of people because a lot of kids. So my baking setup is I have a TV in my kitchen, a little tiny TV, just like my mom did, which is
that's awesome,
kind of sentimental. Like, none of the HGTV kind of kitchens have that. Like, screw your island. I want a TV. I don't want to walk around an island. I like my galley kitchen. It's real convenient.
Sure.
So let's say I'm watching an Astros game. Well, that goes for a while. So, like, I already had dinner. I want a little something. And a nice thing about muffins, for example, is you can eat them all week. So if like you need to grab a breakfast and go, you just have muffins. I try to make them as healthy as I can. So it's not stuff that you're buying from the stores. It's just something to grab and go. And a long time ago, I put my oven online, and people are like, what is that? Because I have a 1967 Frigidaire double oven that was made in the United States of America by General Motors, according to what it says on the oven. And it opens like a DeLorean. It has gull wings, which actually for an oven makes sense because you're not reaching over, a hot oven to put the things in and out. You pull it up, you stick the thing in, and you pull it down. And it's very cool looking. Samantha Stevens had one in Bewitched, I've been told. And it's in Mad Men. One of the episodes of Mad Men has a very similar oven. And so, like, during Astros games, or when I'm like nervous, I'm just like a busy person. I just like to do stuff. I don't like to just sit. So I'm like, okay, I'm nervous. Maybe the Astros will play better if I make muffins. And then sometimes I cook things for the tailgate. Like, I make an Irish whiskey cake.
Okay, now we're talking.
And so, like, if you want to learn how to make either one of these, I use my SEO skills for good. So if you Google any version of my name, Steph Stradley or Stephanie Stradley, in cookbook, or Stradley Irish whiskey cake will take you to a page where I put some people's recipes down.
I see this right now. I mean, it's that SEO
it's
driven.
easy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, who's trying to get like the search terms for that? Like, if you're out there trying to get the search terms for that, you are evil. Like, this is just like because people would say, hey, this, like, the Irish whiskey cake is so good. I like to eat it for breakfast. And so when I take it to a tailgate, it's so easy to make. Like football people out there, this is so easy to make. You could make it. And so, because it's like box mix and lots of eggs and all this kind of stuff. And then when I take it to a tailgate, I cut it into slices and I wrap it in like the little taco wrapper things, which you can get at Costco, like, the big box of wrappers. And so it's so that way people don't have their hands on the dessert. They can just grab a piece of Irish whiskey cake and enjoy. And I can take one bottle of Irish whiskey and share it with like hundreds of friends. Like that's not a Jesus miracle, but it's definitely a miracle.
Your page here, your blog post, your SEO driven work of art also has a picture of the oven that you're talking about down near the
Yes.
bottom, so people can see that.
And it has its own hashtag. It's oven flex.
That is, I mean, it's seriously very cool. I mentioned that I was going to be smoking a brisket and a turkey. You have a recipe for a smoked salmon on here, so there's a lot
and I
to
bring
kind
that
of offer.
I bring that to the tailgates sometimes. That's the easiest one to make. You make these little tinfoil boats to hold the salmon. You put that, you put lots and lots of lemon, just salt and pepper, right? And then you take it to the smoker, 275, and then and on top of the metal boats, just to keep the lemon juice in, you have the cedar planks. And
Sure.
you just lift the cedar planks. You cook it for whatever your taste in it is, like, and my kids, as like my buddy George started doing this first, and we played around with it for a while, but like kids would be like baby birds trying to eat salmon. Like to think that like little kids would eat salmon, but like they don't know anything different.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put nutritious food in front of kids, they're like, ooh, food, I like this.
It is very, very, very delicious. And as somebody who's trying to get his soon-to-be 3-year-old to eat more healthy things, I'm definitely going to try this. You mentioned that it opens like a DeLorean, and I don't think you knew this. If you did, I'd be alarmed, honestly. That's the Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time. So this was a great full circle way to kind of go.
Well, then you'd like this. When I was always hoping for D'Amico Ryans to always come back because he was named Cap, short for captain, his rookie year. Like to know how hard that is as a rookie is just, and so many people admire him, and there's reasons to admire him. And so I was very excited about it. So I was going to go to the draft party, and sometimes I like to bring gifts because I like giving away things to people for free. Like it makes me happy when people are happy. So it makes me sad when Cowboy fans are not enjoying I'm not really sad for you. But I made these wristbands. So this is the DeLorean font.
Oh my gosh.
And DMC, D'Amico. Run DMC was named after that because they liked the DeLorean.
I didn't even know that. That's
the
interesting.
DeLorean Motor Company, or D'Amico. And on the inside of this, there is a quote. Guess what the quote on the inside of this says?
Where we're going, we don't need roads, is my guess. Let's go. I told you it's my favorite movie. I've seen Back to the Future more than most people have.
So yeah.
Wow.
D'Amico, hopefully, and see, this is a different world. I'm going to take you to the DeLorean world. One world is D'Amico came to Houston from Alabama, was the perfect version of a player. Like he had physical limit. Like he's not like how you would draw a linebacker up, but like here and here, he has a heart of a champion. You could see it in everything he did. And, you don't always have the right circumstances around you. He busted an Achilles. He came back. He went to the Eagles. He busted another Achilles there. And then everybody wanted him to go into coaching. And he could have jumped earlier. He jumped now, which was kind of what Gary Kubiak did, where he didn't take any position. He took the position for his home. And our vortex of Houston said, D'Amico, we want you to stay in Houston because you are a football badass. And we appreciate football badasses way more than anybody does, including the Cowboys. So come back home and take us to the promised land. Take us to the moon. Take us to New Orleans, because I've been to New Orleans for Super Bowl. It almost killed me because they stay up way late, and I went to everything. I lost my voice for about a month. that's the Super Bowl that Houston needs to go to. So, like, I want you guys to roll over. I don't want any injuries for your guys. I want you to take good tape, not too good a tape. I want you to have a reckoning for the powers that be. And, you sometimes can bully Jerry into doing stuff.
Sure. Well,
and sometimes bullying doesn't work. Sometimes it just needs to be having a real friend to go, this isn't working for you. And maybe it's uncomfortable to have the owner so involved with this because it creates bad feelings.
we all need a helpful push every now and then, and I think that that might be where Jerry Jones is at. Stephanie, you are a football badass. This was so awesome.
I'm glad you think so.
For everyone who's aware, I told Stephanie this would be 25-ish minutes. So my eternal thanks to her for the time. Go Stros. I really honestly don't care who wins on Monday night. I hope you're happy. I hope everyone is happy. I always wish
we need
everyone...
the Texans to win. It works to both of our interests.
I'm fine with that. I just hope I have a good time. You know what I mean? That's really where I'm at. Stephanie, I hope that all the things you bake throughout the holiday season are delicious and amazing, and that you update the site so that we can.
There's been some people who say that I should start blogging again, and maybe I should.
Consider it a helpful push. You know what I mean? Consider that. Stephanie, some people are saying that you and I are Doc and Marty. I don't know who's who. Maybe it kind of changes on a daily, weekly basis.
Doc.
Thank you so much for the time, and the closing words belong to you.
Oh no, this is just it can't get better than this. Everybody drive safe, be safe at the game, have a good time, have fun, because that's what sports is really about. It's not about debates. It's about people.